Welcome to Ignite Intimacy, a podcast exploring intimacy, romantic relationships, sexuality, and the all of everything that relates to these hot topics. We're going in. You ready? This is your host, Miss La. Let's do this. Awesome. So, Joice, Miss La here, Ignite Intimacy. Yeah, there's a lot to talk about, isn't there?
There is totally. So just a minute ago, you were speaking of the Ignite Intimacy and the political turmoil we are going through in the world and how that relates to intimacy. And I thought that was just a really interesting topic simply because we have so much aggression inside of us by not really fully living who we are.
Absolutely. Well, and right now, as we're all aware, America is coming up on our next big election, and there's just these dynamic forces at play. Yeah. So when we had connected a couple of weeks ago, and because one of your areas of expertise is intimacy on all different levels, you know, this felt like a really hot topic to dive into. I mean, this is the Ignite Intimacy podcast, right? So diving into intimacy on all different levels, because in a earlier podcast with this amazing brethren, Abba Yehuda, we talked about redefining our relationship to intimacy, because many people, I think, hear the word intimacy and they think sex.
No, it's not the same. I mean, you can have sex without intimacy. It's just an in and out. And you can have sex where you just really soul dive, where the energy also is being transformed into something higher, like into a spiritual realm, and where you actually gain insights of yourself and how you respond to things, what's your truth, what you really enjoy and what you want in your life. Those are the kind of epiphanies that you can have during sex. I mean, it's just really crazy, but it's kind of like a channeling of energy if you are doing it that way, if you want to use it that way.
Yeah, and then so pulling it in or back a little bit, and what I'd love to do is dive into just intimacy.
Yes.
So can you, first of all, let me introduce you, because you are a powerful force on the earth right now. And so I want to let our listeners know a little teeny tiny bit about you, because it would be impossible to sum you up in a couple of words. But you are, first of all, I'm just so grateful that a dear friend of mine referred me over to your work and really, you know, turned me on to the work that you're doing in the world. It is needed, it is powerful, it's bold. And I love it. So for everyone listening, Joice is hailing from Germany. So we're talking over the interwebs from the US to Germany. And Diana is a master facilitator and guide for initiation into the arts of sacred intimacy, blending her expertise and training in NLP, Tao, Tantra, Jungian Analysis, White Goddess training, and the science of bonding. Diana is a catalyst for those committed to breaking through their deepest barriers to union and connection. Diana is an expert in guiding high achievers to heal, transcend, and deepen their relationships through mind-blowing sex, soul-deep intimacy, and heartfelt understanding of themselves and their partners. Many of her clients are powerhouses, confident, successful women who want relationships dripping with desire and burning with juiciness to finally reach a space inside that allows surrender and freedom and carefreeness. So, Diana, welcome to Ignite Intimacy.
Thank you so much. I just want to give that back. I mean, all of this right here is just going two ways. I'm really, really happy that he connected us. And I just think that our energies really match. It's just a good fit.
Agreed. And so I'm curious if you can just kind of take us back in your life to the impetus that really just propelled you into doing this work? Is there a specific time or moment or experience that you just said, okay, I know I must do this work?
That was just after my marriage. Before, I had disruptive and really disturbing relationships. Like, I couldn't get close to the people that I loved, or I thought I loved, because I wasn't really close to myself. I didn't really know what that means. What does it mean to touch someone? How does the energy flow? All of these things. I mean, this sounds like science almost, and it kind of like is. But if you really work with your emotions, and if you have access to those, you can create that intimacy. And intimacy is like an openness. It's a surrender to someone who steps into you, and it's a penetration of who you want to dive into. And it's just, there is no right or wrong. It's just you, and it's just that other person. And it's kind of like the thing that we are having right now. It's a bit intimate and delicate. It's what I feel. And there's going to be a lot of truth coming forth from this. It's just, it's like, if you break open for someone, if you want to really open up and to show yourself, that is a risky thing, because they might just abandon you for it. But what I have found is the more open you are, the more you find the people who are really attracted to you.
Absolutely. Well, because it's like you're choosing to be who you truly be.
Yes, and that is all it is. It's really just that simple. Yeah. I mean, it takes a lot of work, because we're working against or with or opening up conditionings and just teachings that we have come along, and things that have hurt us, where we are afraid to be hurt again. Often it's childhood trauma, neglect, stuff like that. It just, most of the time it begins with neglect, and then it just spirals down from there. But what I have found, to come back to your question, is that after this marriage in particular, I was like, man, I was like 16 years I was married to this man, and I had no idea who he was. I had no idea who I am with that man. And that was scary. I was just like, but I don't really want to be alone. So I started to get into seduction. That was my first go-to, because I felt, okay, if I'm going to get into a relationship, I want it to be really, really good. And for this, I'm going to need to have something that teases, something that's playful, something that's fun. So I turned to seduction. And then soon I found out that men and women are just really looking for that deep connection, that deep relating to a woman. It's just like women want to be held by men and want to be deeply touched by men. So, and this is where it all started. It's like I saw this desire in men to actually connect, apart from all of these guys who are in the seduction community, who are trying to get numbers and, manipulating and all of that in order to, cover up something, compensate for stuff. But what I felt was that I needed some kind of training in order to help these men. And this is where it started. And then I began to just study with Tony Robbins and Chloe Madonis. I started to study with Richard Chandler, with Richard Bandler, all of these names. And I did the work with Katie Byron, and, just so many more, all of the reading that I did. But what was important for me is to not only study, but to really experience everything that they said. So from then on, I was looking for relationships who could excel me further, which meant each time I opened up more with each man. It was quite a few relationships, I have to admit. But with every relationship, I opened up another part of myself. I opened up more and more and more and more. And with that, the men, or the quality of men, changed to what I really needed.
Oh yeah. It's interesting that you say that, because I'm experiencing some of that in my own life right now. Is the more through the last few years especially that I'm really becoming grounded in who I am and more bold in my communication and speaking my needs and choosing what I really want and my desires and all of that. There's a totally new energy that is coming into the mix. So it's interesting. It's interesting to witness that.
And it's going to change. I mean, if you are in the field of change, of personal development, then this is inevitable. You are just going to change, and the people around you are going to change because it's the energy that you are going to emit that people are being drawn to it. And once that changes, your environment changes. People around you change. It's a different kind of energy then.
So this is interesting because we're talking about intimacy and we're also talking about the shadow. So you work in both realms.
Yeah.
Can you talk with us just more about that? I find that so intriguing, and they both dance together.
Yeah, I have just recently, I have stepped into my own shadows. It's like I claim them, I own them. A lot of times we have problems which hold us away from really touching ourselves or being in tune with ourselves. And then we are not in tune with anyone else because we cannot hold our own. So the thing is that these shadows, they are fears, they are conditionings, they are barriers that hold us from creating true intimacy. But a lot of times, if you dive into these shadows, as they are called, sometimes they take on the form of voices. Sometimes you have images in your head. Sometimes you have in NLP, we call it hallucinations. So there are visions, as they are called by shamans or the Indians. And you just feel that you have something inside of you that is not really what you want. But once you discover and once you talk to that emotion or that voice or that image that you have connected to this influence inside of you, then you find out that the first and foremost purpose for them is protection. It's like you created these monsters, or as a client of mine said, I'm not afraid of the monsters under the bed any longer because there aren't any. And that is really cool. So when when we dive into finding out who you really are, all of these dark parts, the icky, yucky, junk stuff, the psychopaths, the sociopaths, the killers inside of you, the bitch, the I don't know, the begging dog, you name it. There are all these parts inside of you that make you who you are. You created them. We create them because we are fighting. We are creating monsters in our psyche to fight off the monstrosities that are happening to us.
Oh, yeah.
But then we cannot admit that we have monsters inside ourselves because then who are we? What am I if I am a killer? What am I if I'm a psychopath? What happens if I'm just this begging whore? Who am I? Yeah. But once you create intimacy with those shadows, you soon find out, or maybe not soon, I mean, it took me a while, that they have a strong healing part in them because there's like a coin. You have like the dark side of it, and then you have like the shiny golden side of it. And that's like where the healing is. And if you dive deeply into it, then you can find that these shadows actually have another part. It's like a twin relationship or a twin being, what do you call it? A twin something.
Oh, a twin flame, like a twin.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, exactly. It's like a pair. They come in pairs.
Yeah, it's like a reflection.
Exactly. And what I found is that these shadows, they can help you to create soul retrieval. In shamanism, that's what it's called, soul retrieval. It's like if you have been through deeply traumatizing events in your life, then parts of your soul start to go away. And then spirits take care of them. It's like you have, I don't know, maybe you are drawn to a wolf, or maybe you're drawn to an eagle, or maybe you're drawn to a snake or to a turtle, or I don't know, but these animals, they hold a part of you. And they are responsible to take care of that. And so through shadow work, you are not really going into the shamanism part of it, the ritual, because that is like a one-time thing, and the shamanism is just speaking to all of these spirit animals and just retrieves the soul, all of your parts for you. In shadow work, it takes a little bit longer, and it's like piece by piece by piece by piece. So you find that you feel fuller, that you feel more energized, that you hold more joy inside of yourself, even though you acknowledge these dark parts inside of you, that aggression, that anger, the sadness, the depression, the despair, the fear, all of these parts, they are right there. But they are there to complete you.
Well, because a couple of things are coming to me right now. We are all dark and light, and every shade in between, right?
Yes.
So I know that somewhere along the way, I picked up that I was supposed to be this perfect being that had all her emotions in check and wasn't too much of this and wasn't too much of that, or, and so constantly like self-managing so that I didn't piss anybody off. And so that, I wouldn't get punished, basically.
Yeah.
And then a couple of years ago, I started traversing the realm of the shadow in a huge way. I mean, it just was like, and actually we were just talking before we pressed record about Bali. And when I've only been to Bali once so far. However, right before that first trip a couple of years ago, that is when the shadow started to really kick up again.
Wow.
And it's been an intense 2 years navigating that energy.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's a lot of shame attached to the darker parts of ourselves, So when you're working with your clients, I'm curious, how do you guide them in relationship to acknowledging, owning, claiming, choosing, and that big sort of sometimes totally overwhelming sense or feeling experience of shame? Like, how can I claim something that I feel so shameful about?
The thing is to just talk to that shame, to that emotion, and to get really close to it. And I have, like, this is the procedure that I do with all of my clients as well with myself. It's like whenever we discover a dark part, like a voice or an emotion like shame, we look at that. So where did you come from? What is your purpose? What is your name? Because a lot of them have names. That's really weird. Our subconscious comes up with names. And it's just by getting closer, you begin to own them. And there's a point where you can integrate it. That means that you are going to really own it. Some people have archetypes inside of them. They are like visions inside of their minds. And those parts, they can turn out to be dragons, or sometimes they are huge black widows, or they have phantoms, or there are little girls, or there are, whatever it is. And a lot of times you have the feeling that you have an emotion that sits inside of your head, but it's not really inside of your soul, but somehow it's like an Iron Maiden, like these, do you know what I'm talking about? Like these spiky things that, medieval spiky things that people were put into, You close them up and then you get pierced. It's kind of like that. You feel that it's a power outside of yourself that's controlling you, but once you get to own that shame, once you get to really go into the space of, you know what, I owe you gratitude because you have been helping me all of this time. But, so let's just make the change and just, I invite you in.
Yes.
That's it. I'm going to own you.
Yeah.
You are no longer going to be something that sits inside of my head, but not inside of my soul. Because then it's easier for you to have control over that. Because then you can actually go and say, oh, I feel shameful about this. Okay, this is an emotion that's mine. It's not coming from anywhere else. That is mine, and I have the power to change it. And that is it's just a switch, a little switch that says, this thing is yours. And when it's yours, you have the power to change it.
Yeah. Well, and
does that make sense?
Well, it does, absolutely. And it's like, as we become, the first step is awareness. So if we're not aware that we're feeling shameful or guilty or however we're feeling about something, we can't do anything about it, So for me, it's been a process of having that awareness, like, oh, I'm feeling jealous. Oh, I'm comparing. Oh, I'm feeling shameful, whatever is coming up in that process, and then choosing to acknowledge that. So, hello again, and like, as a grown-ass woman, because I'm no longer the child. I am me now. So knowing that through all the work that I've done through the years and will continue to do, just redeveloping my relationship to that energy now as a grown-ass woman,
yes.
and as the mature adult Laura. So how does this look, sound, feel now that I have an idea that I picked up a lot of shame in my life from this particular person, and a lot of that wasn't mine.
Yes.
So starting to pull it apart a bit and figure out what's mine, what's not mine, and just really, redesigning my relationship to it.
Mm-hmm. What I found in that respect of what you said, we're taking on parts that are not even ours. It's like that we have like this ancestral inheritance. It's like an emotional inheritance that we have. Mm-hmm. It's written in our DNA when we have, like, you might feel this if you have a really bad traumatic event in your life. You can sense it. It's like it tingles in every cell in your body. And that is like your body memory. So it's not only in the mind, it's also in your body. So it's not enough to do the work with the mind, but you also have to work with the body. And this is where, like, these exercises come in. I like to do Qigong exercises with my clients, or give them these exercises, because they are so neutral and they use the energy around in the environment that you can use to fill up your body with goodness and with love and with healing. And then all of these parts come together. It's like this mind-body connection that works.
So it's the integration, right? Because NLP does a lot of that work as well, integrating the parts of ourselves so that we're not like all these separate compartmentalized pieces. We're actually one whole being, right? So it sounds like the work that you are doing and the catalyst that you be is for the realigning, coming together of the whole being.
Yes, and the unlearning of the conditionings, yes. Mm-hmm. But also the healing of the ancestral line.
Give thanks.
Because there's a part inside of us that's like a bony tail, and it reaches back aeons of years, yes? So we can actually heal that one challenge at a time. It's like every time we dive deeper into, okay, I don't know, today we're feeling shame. So we are healing that part. Where does that come from? And we just speak to the ancestral part inside of us, in our DNA. And we just say, hey, listen up, girls, women, how are we going to deal with this? And then you're going to find answers inside of you, because the answers already inside of you. I cannot give you answers. I can only ask you questions and give you advice and tell you what I've been going through and how it worked for me.
Because we all have our own path to get there, right?
Yes, and you have your own imprint. Mm-hmm. So if I'm going to kind of like put a cover over top of that, that's just conditioning. Yeah, just more bullshit, maybe for you. Yeah. So no, we're not doing that in the session. So it's most important to really dig deep, and this is how I got into deception as well, which is not on my website, but I'm reading people because I need to catch the dark parts, which is in self-denial, which is in not talking to themselves right, or not seeing things, being blinded, having these blind spots by our conditioning and by our fears, by the shame that we feel. All of these different parts that play in that.
Well, many of us, I think that I can relate to deceiving myself about things.
Yeah.
and whatever it might be, it might just be me with me or me with other people, whether it's in a personal relationship, business, whatever the configuration might be, is that self-deception and then deceiving with others.
Exactly. And often you do this subconsciously. It's not even an intentional lie. It kind of like it's kind of like, hey, I really don't, inside of me, I really don't want to look like this, or I really don't want to feel like this, so I'm covering it up. But your body wants to tell the truth. So this is how I got into deception. Yeah, I need to read people to catch them in that moment, to find out what's really going on. What is their fear? What is that right there? What is that shame? What is that? Why did you just look away? Why did your body freeze? Why did your heart stop? Those kind of moments, those are essential, because as a coach, I find the most truth when people are lying to themselves.
Wow.
Because there's a barrier and there's a fear, a deep, deep, deep fear. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And it's a way of self-managing that keeps us playing small.
Yeah. I mean, I still have it. Everyone has it. Of course. Everyone is lying to themselves at some point, but I'm glad that I have this ability and the skills to help people with that.
And the awareness, right?
Yeah. Right. Yes.
Because awareness is where it all begins.
The awareness and then the healing. And then you touch differently. Then you touch yourself differently. Like if I'm talking to myself, then it's different. It's more, it's raw and it's honest, and it might be painful. It might be joy, but it's honest. It's really honest.
Well, I wonder if we could dive into something, and if you have any insights on this, mommy issues and daddy issues. So I have a teenage daughter, and she was dating this guy, and he had some mommy issues, and I know other women in my life who've dated people or have been married to men who have mommy issues. So they hate their mothers, they despise their mothers smothered them, their mothers neglected them, their mother, so and then also with daddy issues. You weren't loved, seen, acknowledged by your daddy, whoever it was, whatever the situation was. And then how we replay those scenarios over and over again in our lives, by the partners that we choose and the people that we're attracting, thinking that they'll be the one to give me what I didn't get. And it's not conscious most of the time. But I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit on mommy issues and daddy issues.
So that's kind of like the where you grow up in. It's like when we are children, we want to have the love and the protection of our parents, of course, because we cannot do it on our own. We cannot yet provide on our own. So that means we're going to have to take sides, and we learn through their ways of loving each other, of relating to each other, of having the War of Roses, or however they kind of like relate to each other, and we take that on, even though we might not like it. Like the fighting, mom might have been neglecting me because she was working all of the time. Dad might have been an ass and slept me around. Things like those are very defining with our relationships as well, because then we are trying to solve that inside of us, but it's all subconscious because we don't really know which part is broken. We just know our mothers weren't there, our fathers were brutal, or, in general, we just had shit parents, period. Sometimes I'm a shit parent too. I don't know about you, but yeah, I really am. So there's this part that really goes in, like, do I really want to relate to that? How deep does it hurt? And which parts of my life are restricted or different because of it? And how would it be if that barrier would be just removed or integrated, or somewhat the shields were lowered? to create intimacy, because if I'm getting hit by someone, I'm afraid that I'm being hit again. If I'm neglected by someone, I'm afraid I'm going to be neglected again. There's this fear of abandonment then. So there are two essential fears, as in the teachings of Tony Robbins. I'm just going to do some name dropping here. There are two essential fears. One fear, that is the fear of not being enough, which speaks to the ego, which is like, who am I? And the other one is, I'm unworthy of love. It's like, I don't get the support, the source that I need to live. If we look at the science, then babies at a very early age, without nurturing, without love, they die within a matter of days. They just die. And this is how important that is.
Well, and I wondered, because I cautioned my daughter to boys with mommy issues. Because most young people haven't been around long enough to work through their stuff on a more, I guess, mature way. They're still kind of figuring out. I mean, I don't know about you, but my daughter and I have a hot and cold relationship, and right, just at the time being. But I find myself wanting to caution her to dating boys with mommy issues, because it concerns me, because I find that men with mommy issues are have interesting ways at times of relating to women.
No shit.
So
the problem is that most of our generations now have mommy and daddy issues because we're growing up with shit parents. Because those parents that we are living with now, they have been through so much stuff. And if we're just looking at it, we're just going into an era where people are going to be unrooted and not self-grounded. It's just like self-development has become the new mom and the new dad and the new friend. And the listening to and the connection and the true intimacy of giving presence and space and love and everything that someone needs. And that is a sad development. So this is why I'm doing this work, because I want to make that change.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it is so important, and it is so needed.
Yeah.
So do you work with people all over the world?
Yes, I work internationally with men and women, but most of my clients are women because they are looking for the solutions. And I'm more like on the stance of, well, I don't know what I don't know. So it's kind of like I have women go to their men and shoving the programs under their noses to say, hey, listen, I would love to have that. And this woman is just expressing what I feel. And I don't have the words for it.
And what do you find between the women that you work with and the men that you work with? What tend to be some of the more common traits among the men and then with the women? Is there a commonality from client to client? Do you notice things that come up consistently with women and then other things that come up with men? Or what's your experience with that?
Very much so. I mean, I work with a lot of powerful women who have their business in check, who make a lot of money, who are working on all cylinders, and they are wearing the pants in the business, but they have kind of like trouble to really get into a relationship that's deep enough, that is loving enough, where there is the penetration of a man and where she can actually open up to surrender, because it's really tough. I have been working as a moderator myself for like 6 years and working 14, 15, sometimes 16 hours a day, and then coming home and then flipping the switch from this energy of achievement to the energy of just flowing and just letting things happen and let someone else lead. That is super hard. And that is like, most of the time, that is the barrier that we are working on, to find the switch. What I used to do, here's just a little tip. What I used to do is, like, after my work, I took out 1 hour for myself, just for myself. Even after that long day, I didn't care. That 1 hour to climb a castle, because I live in Europe, we have all these old ruins and castles and churches. And this is where I found myself again, like my center. It's like when I had a rough day, or when the day was really long, or when I had like people on that just the place where I was that were kind of like unruly, like the energy was weird, and I was just off. I needed that 1 hour to really collect myself again, breathe in and not think of anything.
Oh, yeah.
Just find that place. And then I could go home and be that woman there. I could switch from being like the breadwinner and the one that talks on stage all of the time and all day long to the woman who just sits there, who listens and who is there.
And what about men? What do you see with regards to men?
So a lot of men, they come to me and they complain about exactly that. So it's like, this woman is like, she's butt-heading all of the time. What am I going to do with that? And of course, these men, they are also very, very strong, and they are powerful men. They're standing in business, and they go like, now I have this amazing, powerful woman and I want her, but the bitch is not opening up. It's kind of like, okay. So the problem here is then usually I teach them humor to break down her walls. And it's just really a seduction and humor and love and just opening that up and being that, giving her that penetration even though she's stonewalling. Or she's not even aware. Most women are not even aware of it. They know something is off, and they know their partners admire them for their power, for their drive, all of these things, but not in the bedroom, honey. Yeah, so there's that thing. So what exactly does he want from me? It's kind of like what we want. We want a gentleman in the living room and outside of the world, but we want a fucking barbarian in the bedroom. And that is kind of like the same that it goes with men. Yeah. They want the whore in the bedroom. They want the good girl out there doing her thing and being powerful and being beautiful and doing all of the things that she does. But when they are together, there needs to be the polarity, because if you both have like the same energy, then it's like a battery. If you have like plus and plus polars, they just bounce off each other. It's like they don't attract each other. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have this. I know this experience pretty intimately. It makes me think of salsa dancing. My twin sister's a salsera, and so I know how to salsa dance a bit. She's the salsa dancer. I mean, she's incredible, and I've taken some classes of hers, and I have to really put myself in check over and over and over again when I'm salsa dancing, because I want to lead.
Yeah.
And I'm not the leader. I am the allower. I am the follower. And so in that scenario, in partner dancing, the man is leading, or the teacher. So my sister, if I'm dancing with her, she's the leader. She's leading me. She's guiding me through the movements. And I notice when I can let go and allow her to lead me, there's nothing else for me to do.
Yeah.
Except just enjoy myself. And I find that I loosen up and I start laughing and smiling, and and I'm just allowing myself to be moved in this dance. And when I start to get tense and think that I know the movement that they're going to send me into next, and that's when I miss a turn or I miss a cue, or, because I think I know, and I tense up, and then I'm trying to control the scenario.
So here's one thing that you can do. I'm giving you homework now. You are not doing salsa dancing anymore. You are going to do Argentinian tango, because then you really have to go. It's going to be a disaster. I'm going to come watch.
Okay, that sounds like a good challenge. And I'm in New York at the present moment, so I'm sure I can find some great tango classes.
Yeah, it's really like, but find someone who is from Argentina, someone who teaches but there are also differences. Find someone who teaches from the heart. Find a woman and a man. The man who is into like this macho thing on the dance floor, and the woman who is into surrendering to that. if you find a pair who is kind of like only looking for technique, you are not going to get the intimacy out of the Argentinian tango. That is so vital. And it's the same for relationships. This is why I recommend this.
Great. I'm hearing you. And anyone who's listening, if you want to, join me in the tango challenge that Diana is presenting, I will love to have you join me. And you can check in with us at hello@igniteintimacy.com and let us know if you've taken on the tango challenge, whatever that might mean in your own life. But I think that this is my cue to go and check out some tango, because I've always been fascinated by that dance style. And so you had shared with me a piece that I would love for you to share with our readers about what we're talking about right now. Very powerful women who, have it all under control. They might be a single mom with a business or a high-level executive running things in her life, and this dynamic between control and surrender. Would you be willing to share that piece with us?
So exactly, what exactly do you want for me to answer?
Well, I would love for you to read the piece that you had shared with me.
Oh, you want the piece?
Yes.
Okay, hold on a second, because my monitor just went off. One moment.
Okay, great. So Diana is an amazing writer, and she has got tons of writing that she shares on her website. What is your website address, Diana?
The website address is Diana M. Joice, like Diana, like the American Diana. I hate that. M like Martha, and Joice with an I instead of a Y. So .com.
Okay, great. So
just Google me, you'll find me.
Yep,
it's Diana M. Joice. It's very simple. You find me on all cylinders, all kinds of platforms.
Awesome.
So here's this piece that I wrote. I call it Someone at Heart. And this piece came forth from a client of mine who kind of like reached out to me, and she was like, hey, I have no idea what's going on with me. And I just want to get fucked so hard with hair pulling and biting and scratching, pinching and hardcore anal sex. And I wonder why I have this excitement with rough sex. Am I too independent during my day, or is it because I have to look after my kids, or both? And then she came out with that she's in a masculine state most of the time because she has to take care of everything on her own. And here we go again with that energy of the achiever and needing to break through things. But when she goes out, it's like her feminine energy comes out, and her flirting and enjoying the attraction of men. So she really enjoys the stuff. And then she's wondering if the sexual desire is her need to have a very masculine man, so one who will overpower her. And she just sees a sign of weakness in a man, whatever that means, and it's like a total turnoff. So, and then she asked me on my angle on this, and I just reflected inside. I went inside, and I felt what she might feel. And this is what came out of it. Someone at heart. More. Deeper. Fuck me. As my back is scratched open by the constant friction against my skin, my insides scream for violent penetration. No time for niceties, mind me. My legs wrap around his waist, my flower constantly throbbing, hungry for the touch deep inside, where his cock finally reaches my soul, my heart. A fever holds sway over my sanity. I want it even harder, to the point of blood trickling from my overheated surface, in which he writes his name with cruel precision, smearing it all across like war paint. It is the bloodlust emerging from the darkness of my soul, the trance in which every feeling is amplified. I crave the pain. I thirst for violent acts of love. Maybe recreational scolding is a way to leave an unfulfilling past behind, a past in which discipline wasn't the rule, but rather the bearded hippie freedom, be all you can be bullshit, in which children learn to disrespect instead of questioning, fight authority instead of challenging it. And even if I had the guidelines, I'd be craving them still. Now the whip cracks and I come. I bow to the rules I am given, merge with myself in most delicious ways, and find the jewel of surrender in a most awkward, painfully pleasurable wounding. Without the barbaric smoothness in your walk, the piercing precision of your words, I feel I cannot trust you with myself. And yes, I was afraid that you wouldn't be the man to hold up to a promise I saw in you when our eyes first met. But here you are. Finally, I can let go of having to hold that space for everyone around me. Finally, I can fall into my lusciousness with red streaks burning boundaries into my bare derriere. Boundaries which are, for once, not made by me. This time, he is the executor, the one who overwhelms, who creates a titillating tremble bowing to his strength. I get fucked hard and harder, to my delight, to my despair, in lust and in love, with tender cruelty, with cruel tenderness. So I fall, deeper and deeper, until I feel that everything I held up for such an excruciatingly lasting time collapses, and tears are the only expression left for the tormenting emptiness I felt for far too long. The cost of being in charge in a very strong manner. The toll to pay for having to be in charge when my utmost desire is to flow. But still, I still have to uphold some kind of order. And if I do it right, I go hard inside. Then I have to deny myself the playful ways of femaleness. Because I have to be strict. Because when I'm strict, I become hard inside and I lash out. Because it is painful to create such a disconnect to myself. So I best avoid becoming hard with patience and love. Tons of love pouring right out of me. No, that's better. Intensity is my drug, even in pain. As much as I missed being fucked wide open, as much as the pain when he finally penetrates. Here, I can escape from the masks I wear each day. From here, I yield to the pain that I am given. That's what makes it good. That's when I can heal. A good pain for a bad pain. It's an exchange thing. It's an intensity thing. It's a thing of pure penetration. Thank you.
Ladies, gentlemen, everyone else, this is Miss La with Diana M. Joice. What a great, great pleasure. Thank you so much for your time and your energy and your expertise and just this powerful knowledge that is channeling through your being that you are sharing with the world in these really, really powerful and dynamic times.
Oh, thank you for connecting with me, and just, I'm really, really grateful to be on this show. And it was a pleasure talking to you.
Give thanks. And you are listening to the Ignite Intimacy podcast. Please feel free to holler at us. hello@igniteintimacy.com. We are on iTunes. If you could hop over, subscribe to the podcast, write a review, give us some stars, give us a rating, and tell your friends. We are so grateful that you're here with us today. And please go and check out Diana at dianamjoice.com. It's DIANA, M as in mother, JOICE.com. Again, give thanks, Diana, and I can't wait to connect with you again.
Thank you, Laura. I can only give that back.
More love, and we will see you on the next one. Give thanks for tuning in. Give thanks for tuning in to another conversation on the Ignite Intimacy podcast hotline. We love that you choose to spend your time with us. Check us out online at igniteintimacy.com and subscribe to us on iTunes. Also, tell your friends all about it. This beautiful music was arranged by Jason Pfaff and Mike Corey, and this podcast is produced by yours truly, Miss La. Give thanks again, and we'll see you on the next one. In the meantime, let your light shine bright and ignite your intimacy.